Okay, tax man. This is a quick.
Yeah,
I had on my podcast Michael Gratz, who is he was a law professor for many years at Columbia and Yale Law. He worked in the Treasury Department. He's retired now, and he writes books. And he wrote this book called "The Power to Destroy: How the Anti-Tax Movement Hijacked America." And I had him on the podcast, and I read the book, and it's which came out I think last week, and it was fascinating. Like like I told him, I mean, if you're going to market something with a 3-letter word ending in X, tax is not the word you would pick, right? So, the taxes are boring, they're dull. It's like, oh my God, tax law. But it's really a fascinating book because it's sort of like the evil geniuses of this movement, right? Because it was a concentrated movement with a weird coalition of basically weirdos who didn't want to pay taxes for various reasons. Social conservatives who didn't want to pay taxes because they didn't want their money helping Black and brown people. Right. Evangelical Christians because they wanted their schools, especially in the South, they wanted their private religious schools that they founded so that they could keep up the segregation to, not be taxed. And then just rich assholes who didn't want to pay taxes. So all of those people combined together, with a bunch of kooks like this Grover Norquist he's just a kook. What kind of person, what kind of human graduates from college and Harvard, he went to Harvard and thinks, you know what I'm going to spend my life doing? I think billionaires are taxed too much. I'm going to make it my life's work to make sure that they're taxed less. Who the fuck does that? Like, what a ridiculous thing to. At least Leonard Leo has a religious reason for doing what he's doing. I mean, he believes it fully. But the tax thing is so just fuck you, man. It's just bizarre. And that guy Arthur Laffer, I didn't really understand that. That was this guy just wrote like a dumb curve on a piece of paper, and Reagan thought it was great. And then they put this thing together and they keep cutting taxes and cutting taxes and cutting taxes and cutting taxes. And I never really thought about how political taxes are, like in the sense that what we choose to tax, what we don't choose to tax, it shows what we as society values. So the Scandinavian countries that have higher taxes but give all the stuff back to the people so that they have things like, healthcare and good education and, women can give birth and go take time off that's paid, all that stuff that civilized places should do. They value that as a society. And Americans, again, we're so dumb in a collective way. We don't understand that the fact that we all pay taxes goes to that and making all of our lives better. That if all of us paid more in taxes, we would pay significantly less in healthcare costs, and we'd actually wind up saving money in the long run. It's too mathy for these people to get. So all of this tax stuff happened. It came out of the 70s. Reagan came in there, and Reagan, who was like, came up as an actor in the 50s when the top marginal rate was 91%, and said like, I only make 3 movies a year because the 4th movie is I just pay it to the government anyway. It's not worth doing. So he had his own personal grievance to do this kind of thing. And throughout this, it's just tax cut after tax cut, and everything's lowered, and you see things like Reagan, while talking about fiscal responsibility and balancing the budget and all this stuff, meanwhile was spending money like the drunkest of drunken sailors. Yeah. And left with, when he took office, I think it was about $1 trillion in deficit. He left with 2.7 trillion. HW said he would not read my lips, no new taxes. And then he looked at the sheets and was like, oh, fuck, we have to raise taxes, because he was actually a responsible human.